Bill Simmons had a video about what he thought were the 3 weirdest NBA seasons. It was a video I enjoyed as I liked his reasoning. So if you're wondering, Bill Simmons' 3 weirdest NBA seasons going from 3rd to 1st were 1995, 2004, and at number 1, 1978. Comment below what you thought was the weirdest NBA season, as I'm interested to know what you think. But from my point of view, I would have to nominate the 1999 NBA season being the weirdest NBA season, and here's why. To begin, there was an NBA lockout that caused the NBA regular season to begin in February with 50 regular season games scheduled, and it was crazy because the 50-game season was really compacted and condensed with several back-to-back games. In addition, there were times when a team had to play 3 games in 3 days, as this was a grueling NBA season. Because of this late start, there wasn't an all-star weekend, so when the season began, the NBA team that played in the Windy City looked extremely different. The dominant Chicago Bulls dynasty was no more, as Michael Jordan retired for the 2nd time. Scottie Pippen was playing in those ridiculous Houston Rockets uniforms, teaming up with Hakeem Olajuwon and Charles Barkley, and Dennis Rodman was in LA wearing gold and purple. So the 1999 Chicago Bulls perhaps had the worst roster of my lifetime, but I have to give them credit that they went 13-37, which was not the worst record in the NBA in 1999. In fact, I think they really exceeded expectations. But I have to say this, I have no idea why Coach Tim Floyd was running the triangle offense. Other players in new places included Latrell Sprewell in a Knicks uniform, which was strange, as Spree was suspended the previous season after his choking incident with Warriors head coach PJ Carlesimo. Charles Oakley was in a Raptors uniform, and it's just weird seeing Oak wearing these purple and red jerseys with a huge dribbling dinosaur. And I remember this because for the first 3 seasons in existence, the Raptors, they really struggled. Then Vince Carter came to Toronto, and it was Vinsanity, and he made a huge impact on the franchise and made the Raptors very relevant, which was something I think many NBA fans weren't used to seeing. One of the stranger games I witnessed ever during this 99 season was when the Knicks played the Lakers in LA, and during this game, Kurt Thomas, I thought he was getting tired of Dennis Rodman's antics, so he took down the worm to the ground. And then also in this game, Shaq, he had a thunderous dunk on Chris Dudley, which prompted Dudley to just chuck the basketball at Shaq. As for some of the other teams, the Grizzlies, they had the worst record at 8-42. The Clippers, they went 9-41. And as for the Clippers, they made perhaps the most surprising first overall selection of Michael Olowokandi from the University of the Pacific. Furthermore, the Clippers, they also began the season at 0-17. Then there's the Portland Trail Blazers, who were just acquiring talent as much as they could and had perhaps the deepest bench ever. And what's strange about this team is that for the top 8 statistical categories, there was a different Trailblazer player that led each of those 8 categories. So now on to the Sacramento Kings. So when I first began watching NBA basketball in the late 80s until 1998, I would say Sacramento was the worst NBA franchise. But then, for the 1999 season, they drafted this point guard with little college experience who would become white chocolate, and this point guard, Jason Williams, would bring his unique style of playing basketball that really hasn't been seen ever before. The Kings also traded for Chris Webber, and the Kings compiled one of the most entertaining teams ever. It was fun watching how unselfish and how great of a passing team this Kings team was. It was a beautiful and entertaining brand of basketball entering the league. As for the playoffs, Sacramento, they had a 2-1 lead against the 2-time defending Western Conference champs, the Utah Jazz. But then in Game 4, if John Stockton didn't hit the shot with under a second to play, the Kings, out of all teams, would have been the team to knock off the Jazz in the playoffs. But then in Game 5, it was a weird game as the Jazz, they got off to a hot start, and the Kings, they played horribly to begin the game, as it seemed like the veteran Utah Jazz were going to blow out the Kings at their boisterous home arena. But somehow the Kings came back and took the Jazz to overtime, but Utah prevailed. Then for the next round, it was a chippy series versus Portland, especially between Brian Grant and Karl Malone, who would wind up becoming the oldest MVP in NBA history. But nonetheless, it was the Portland Trail Blazers who took care of the Jazz 4-2. And also worth mentioning, out of the 4 semifinal series, 3 of them were sweeps. Meanwhile, in the Eastern Conference, there was a battle of what I thought was the best rivalry in the NBA in the 90s, in the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks. Anyways, the 8th seeded Knicks, they eliminated the top-seeded Heat in 5 games thanks to this shot. by Allen Houston. Now, I understand the condensed 50-game schedule may not be a true indicator of a team's true record during the regular season. Nonetheless, New York, they became only the second 8th-seeded team at this time to defeat a 1 seed in the playoffs, and they also became the first 8th-seeded team to reach the NBA Finals, but they lost to San Antonio in the finals. All right, now back to the Western Conference, and for Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, somehow Sean Elliott made the shot to give the Spurs a 2-0 lead, and this shot is just impossible. How did Sean Elliott catch the ball? He was wobbling, being close to going out of bounds, but somehow Elliott wound up being on his toes with his heels in the air. His heels were above the out-of-bounds line, but it did not touch the out-of-bounds line. But how did the ref not call this a turnover? But credit to the ref for making the right call, and this is a shot that I doubt will ever be seen again. And those are some of the weird items that happened during the 1999 season. If there was something I didn't mention, feel free to comment below. And I just want to say thank you so much for your interest in this video. I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you so much for all the support.